First of all, I will express my sincere thanks to the Kocaeli municipality and its mayor, İbrahim Karasmanoğlu. Again, I want to thank all who are the member of the organizing committee and other staff who makes perfect service to us. Thank you, thank you. Today, there are three distinguished academicians who present their proceedings, not wasting time, because the two academicians have to catch their plane. So first of all, I will give the to make presentations to Muhittin Mulalic. Please, you are here.
Dear participants, guests, and organizers of the conference, I come from Bosnia and Herzegovina, from the International University of Sarajevo, and I am privileged to be here with you to show solidarity and the support for the Turkish nation with regards to your sacrifice and the victory on July 15. That very night, and every night and day after, the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina were with you. In the same way, you were with us during the war. We will never forget your prayers, tears, and unselfish political, humanitarian, and military support for the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. A small example, I wouldn't be standing before you today if there was no support from Turkey for the establishment of the International University of Sarajevo. This very university was founded by the Turkish people of goodwill who want to help us in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Today I would like to present to you my paper on content analysis of Western Balkans daily newspapers on July 15, coup d'etat in Turkey. I think it is important to explain how Turkey is perceived in the Western Balkans. Of course, Turkey is seen as a rising power because of its population, territory, economy, and political and military influence. Turkey is seen as a power that directs its activities towards peace, stability, mediation, trade, and commerce. Turkey has been successfully using its multi-dimensional foreign policy based on common geography, history, economics, and culture. That's why I consider it is important to present Turkish constructive influence in the Western Balkans. Then we shall present how Turkey has been represented by the Western Balkans daily newspapers. I consider that the research findings will answer to you the question. Two daily newspapers mostly emphasize negative news by overshadowing Turkish economic, trade, cultural, and educational impacts and contributions in the Western Balkans. I will start this presentation with a short survey of Turkish Western Balkans relations, especially emphasizing on four countries, on Bosnia and Herzegovina, on Croatia, on Serbia, and on Montenegro. Under this title, I will try to summarize main Turkish economic, cultural, educational, political, and diplomatic initiatives in the Western Balkans. We start with Bosnia and Herzegovina. In Bosnia and Herzegovina in 2015, Turkish foreign direct investment was at 32 million. Bosnia exported 181 million worth products to Turkey, and trade volume between Turkey and Bosnia stood at 500 million. In 2012 and 2014, Turkey gives soft loans of 100 million and 50 million respectively to boost returning process in Bosnia and Herzegovina and small and medium companies. On cultural and educational levels, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Sarajevo Education Development Foundation made significant investments in education. TICA realized more than 700 projects. If there was no TICA, the old bridge in Mostar, Mehmed Pasha Sokolovich Bridge in Visegrad, and Ferhat Pasha Mosque in Banja Luka wouldn't be shining today. So, of course, thanks to Turkey and thanks to Turkish constructive support for the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Cultural and educational activities contributed towards increased number of visitors from Turkey. For example, in 2009, 13,000 visitors visited Bosnia from Turkey, while in 2017, 53,295 visitors came to Bosnia, which is 4 times increment since 2009. Bosnia will never forget Turkish political and diplomatic support during the war. Of course, Turkey supported Bosnia on our NATO and the EU path. More importantly, Turkey initiated successful trilateral meetings between Turkey, Serbia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina in 2009, 2010, 11, and 13. Of course, these trilateral meetings initiated by Turkey contributed towards significant economic growth and development and trade exchange between Turkey, Serbia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. With regards to Serbian-Turkish relations, of course, Turkey started with signing the trade agreement in 2009. From 2009 until today, trade exchange increased 3.5%, while Serbian exports to Turkey had increased 7.5%. For Turkey, Serbia is often seen as the most important country and a key to the Balkans' stability and security. Recently, the President of Turkey visited Serbia. 2 presidents made promise to increase trade exchange from 800 million in 2016 to 1 billion in the coming year. More than 70 Turkish companies have a total investment volume of 113 million in Serbia. Similar contributions, similar influence, and similar impact, constructive impact, of course, Turkey has in Croatia and, of course, in Montenegro. Due to the shortage of time, I will not emphasize on these 2 countries, but I just try to answer one question in the first part of my presentation related to why this short survey. Of course, I would like to give a very simple answer, stating that Turkey is present in the Western Balkans. This is very important. Not only that Turkey is present in the Western Balkans, but Turkey is playing responsible and constructive role in the Western Balkans, and this is very important for us. When it comes to my practical dimension or part of the research or presentation, I examined 4 daily newspapers in these 4 countries. I examined Večernji list from Croatia, Telegraph from Serbia, Vijesti from Montenegro, and Dnevni Avaz from Bosnia and Herzegovina. In total, I analyzed 433 news. And I was trying to give answer to 4 questions. So there were 4 questions I was trying to give an answer to. On the first question, I was trying to give an answer to what was the degree of socio-political presence of Turkey in Western Balkans. So to what extent is Turkey present in the Balkans? So let us have some kind of the statistics or the coverage itself. When it comes to the coverage between July 15, 2016 and July 15, 2017, we got the following data. Dnevni Avaz from Bosnia and Herzegovina had 198 news on Turkey. Večernji list from Croatia had 116 news on Turkey. Telegraph from Serbia had 53 news on Turkey, and Vijesti from Montenegro had 66 news on Turkey. Also under this question we analyzed newspapers' coverage related to 3 different topics. So related to the news on politics, news on economics, and news on social, cultural dimensions. We found the following, that Dnevni Avaz had 88% of news on politics. Večernji list had 98% of news on politics. Telegraph had 92% and Vijesti 98% on politics. It implies that all 4 newspapers reported on politics with regards to Turkish internal issues, Turkish-EU relations, Turkish-Russian relations, and Turkish involvements in Syria and Iraq. Data indicated that newspapers neglected reporting on economic, social, cultural, educational, touristic, or autistic relations with the Western Balkans countries, which is very significant. What we can notice, that there is a significant shift of the media from balanced reporting on other than political influences in the Balkans or the Western Balkans by Turkey. So this is very much important. If we go back and consider Turkish influence in the Western Balkans, let's say from 2008 until, let's say, 2015, we will find out that the media in the Western Balkans was very much emphasizing on economic, trade, cultural, autistic, we go back to soap operas as well, relations with the Western Balkans countries. However, today, those daily newspapers are emphasizing most on reporting on the politics. What is the recommendation now? What we can say now? Turkey must reconsider the strategies of how to balance its political, economic, and cultural presence through the media by reviving its cultural diplomacy as to maintain its constructive and positive image in the Western Balkans. You know, to give you an example, if you have a media always reporting on Turkey with regards to Turkish involvement in Syria. Of course, there is a creation of a kind of a negative perception. So it's always important to push the media to report on something what is much more tangible, what is much more positive. Take as an example the last visit of Prime Minister to Serbia. So that's a good example of how to shape the public perceptions. I had the second question. In my second question, I was trying to examine what was the degree of Western Balkans positive or negative reporting on Turkish socio-political influence. So this is very important. Of course, I was trying to look at the media reporting in Bosnia, Croatia, Serbia, and Montenegro. We made the classification on news into positive and negative based on their title and contents. News selected as negative had negative title, hidden linguistic agenda, negative contents, and negative connotations. Results have indicated the following. Večernji list from Croatia had 68% of negative reporting. So, Večernji list from Croatia 68% negative. Telegraph from Serbia had 52% negative. Večernji list from Montenegro had 29% of negative. And Dnevni Avaz had only 38% of negative. The data clearly indicated that Večernji list from Croatia and Telegraph from Serbia presented negatively Turkish socio-political influence in the Balkans, so which is quite interesting finding. Then I have question number 3. What was the degree of media reporting on coup in Turkey? So this is quite interesting. Here I was trying to estimate the percentage of the media reporting or the interest of the media reporting on the coup on July 15, 2016. I found the following. Večernji list from Croatia had 66% of news out of the total on the coup. Telegraph from Serbia had 45, VST had 27, and Dnevni Avaz from Bosnia and Herzegovina had only 17%. Večernji list from Croatia with 66% and Telegraph with 45% from Serbia had the highest percentage of reporting on the coup in Turkey on July 15. We assume that Večernji list from Croatia had the highest percentage because of the similar trends of reporting in Austria and Germany. Croatia supported media campaign in the West against Turkey. So this is quite important statement. So that when it comes to Croatia, Croatia supported the media campaign in the West or in the EU against the Turkey, and especially against the coup. This is quite an interesting finding. Okay. Data also indicated that Serbia was balancing its position, trying to mediate its position between Russia, EU, and Turkey. So the findings also have indicated that Serbia is playing a pragmatic role in the region. So recently there were some statements from the American officials stating that Serbia is trying to sit on few chairs. So Serbia has to decide. So Serbia has the balanced approach when it comes to the support or non-support of the coup in Turkey. As a conclusion, I would like to say that the first part of my presentation indicated that Turkey had excellent diplomatic, trade, and cultural relations with the Western Balkans countries. Then, however, excessive reporting on politics in the media overshadow Turkish economic trade and cultural activities in the Western Balkans. So emphasizing only on politics, of course, overemphasized, reporting overshadow or cover something that Turkey actually has been doing in constructive way. Turkey should reactivate its diplomacy, economic investments, trade, exchange, and cultural activities in the Western Balkans as to stop negative trends of reporting in some countries. Data also indicated that Turkey should reconsider, this sentence is important, that Turkey should reconsider its relations with Croatia because of negative trends of reporting. There is a need to work more on strengthening relations, or in a sense, re-establishing better relations with Croatia. This is the last sentence. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay, we also say thank you. Now, Mr. Dr. Ahmet Kulanic, his proceeding also the complementary of Mr. Mulalic. As such, he also focuses on the Balkan media perception about the 26th CAP attempt in Republic of Turkey. Please, Mr. Kulanic.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like just briefly to thank to the audience. We will have these pictures at the end, please. I would like to show them, but just I need briefly to introduce you with the theories of the media communications studies. What is important actually in the media? It's not only about the news, publishing the news. So there are two important things when it comes to the media and communication studies as such. The first is this new global trend that we have in the modern world that replaced the traditional role of the media that was to inform its audience, citizens. Rather now we have the new type of the medias that beside this role they try to educate, they try to entertain, and even socialize the audience and the citizens. So this is the shift in the role of media itself. The second thing let's see, when we go back to the coup attempt in Turkey, the specific moment is that throughout the world we could have the live broadcasting through all these new media, through all these new portals, what's happening in Turkey. So we could see actually what the people were experiencing. Also in the Balkans, we saw on the news, it was channeled. Later on, I will try to give example on that. When it comes to the Balkan media itself, what is important to understand here is that the Balkan media and even the Turkish media goes under this, let's say, categorization is that it is Mediterranean or polarized Western model of the media itself. So usually what we have as the characteristics of this model is that the mass media is intimately involved in the historical events. It tries to represent the political issues, and it is traditionally used as the mean of the ideological expressions of the media itself and the citizens. So it is a mixed, polarized, Western polarized model, or usually referred as the Mediterranean model of the media itself. When it comes to the certain theories related to the media that I would like to emphasize, the first one is agenda setting. So what you actually would like to present. So what the media wants to show and how they, what type of the intentions they have when it comes to the, let's say, presenting the news itself. So under this agenda setting model, there is actually prioritizing of the news. So it is not the same what you have on the cover page or what you have as the featured front news on the portal, or what is somewhere at the back, what is on 42nd page. So nobody cares what is on 42nd page. On 42nd page, you can write that the Bosnia and Herzegovina is the most tolerant country in the world. But on the first page, you will say that radical Islam threatens the Bosnia. So this shows how, like, actually prioritizing of the news shows these ideological and intentions behind the media itself that you can have. This spectrum goes from two very opposing, let's say, views. The first one is silencing the news. When you don't report about something, it's also news. It shows how the media actually reacts toward the certain events. To over-representation of the certain, just to give the information as much as possible, as many possible angles you can have from certain, and then you try to mix it. So the agenda setting usually goes with the frequency of the publishing news and with the tone or tonality of that news, how you write it. So the second, let's say, important theory that goes is the framing of the news itself, or the framing theory. So this is closely related to agenda setting, but while the agenda setting actually focuses the audience on what to think, the framing of the news itself tries to focus on the thing, how to think. So these are the two different aspects. So what to think gives you certain, let's say, attributes, repeatance of these attributes, so it gives. But how to think, actually, it tries to educate the readers, the audience, to go in line with the ideology, with the frame of that news itself. So it pushes the readers to accept the values that certain media is trying to emphasize on. So the process of framing itself, it is divided into three major categories. Or three major steps, sorry. So the first one is the input, the process, and the output, which is actually, again, the beginning of the new input. So it is infinitive circle, and it circles always around. So when it comes to the major types, what are the factors that influence on the framing, they can be, let's say, divided into two major categories. The internal, that comes from the media itself, the editors, the journals, when he puts himself in writing that story, when he tries to present. And the external, the political actors, the interest groups, the media owners, at the end, how they try to influence over the coverage of the news. The most important here, when it comes to the media, to the profession of the media, oh, I have 3 more minutes, is the conflict-sensitive journalism. So there are a couple of things that are important when it comes to the journalist, to the reporting itself. So especially in the sensitive, crisis-sensitive situations or conflict situation as such. So the first and ultimate, let's say, precondition that we could call is the possibility of the access to unprejudiced information and the news itself. The second is the possibility of freedom to express yourself and the expression of the freedom through writing the news itself. So these three as the preconditions. So all these three theories, when you try to analyze the media, the content of the media, all these three theories have to be sublimed and have to be together. So I would like just to give you a few information when it comes to the media in the Balkans. We have these traditional medias, traditional newspapers, published printed versions and all these kind of things. But the fact is nobody reads them. So this is the reality. Very few number of the people are reading actually newspapers, buy them and read them. What we go now, we go online. And then the audience is not only in Bosnia, the audience is not only in Serbia, the audience is not only in the Balkans, the audience is the world itself. So you have the readers from USA, you have the readers from Australia, you have all these. I will try to finish, then we will try to catch the flight. So I need to say a couple of things. The audience is the world itself. We are in a globalized village. So that's why all these media, they have more than 1 million, online media I'm talking, more than 1 million readers. I was speaking with some of these young people, asking them, when was it the last time when you bought the newspaper, the actual paper? Like, I bought it 2-3 years ago when I was in primary school, and these kind of things. We don't use it anymore. And we have to realize that fact, especially because of the social media, which is separate phenomena. Then you go into much more like sharing, clicking, and all these kind of things, and you need sensation, you need to present something. So the Balkan media goes in that transition as well. So the portals, the news portals are much more important, much more significant in the media, let's say, scene in the Balkans than it was any published new newspaper. No, not to name, I mean, they can be offended, but these press runs, I remember like one newspaper 5 years ago or 6 years ago was publishing like, and they were celebrating this. We published 100,000 copies today, and it was written, or more than 100,000. Now they cannot, or they are ashamed to publish how many copies or press runs they publish. So this is something, and usually it goes to institutions, and when the people in the government or somewhere else are reading these, because nobody wants to pay 1K and €1, whatever the price is, and to get that one when he can get it free of charge, let's say in 2 hours. So why should you invest your money in something that you can get free? So these are the important things. That's why in my research, you will be able to find it, or you can contact me. I can send you all these data. I only focused on the articles related to the coup attempt. Not about the Turkey, not about economy, not about perception of the Turkey, but only the articles related to the coup attempt. And in the 12 internet portals or news portals that I analyzed, they published 779 news related to the coup attempt. Majority of them were published within first, let's say, month. The second wave of the publishing of these news was in the context of the referendum in Turkey, when the government decided to have the referendum about the changing constitutional changes within the Turkey. Again, you had certain type of the articles related to the coup itself. The third wave was on the, in a way, commemoration or anniversary of the coup attempt. And this is, let's say, the least, with the least number of the articles covered period. So, in all these articles, what is important to mention is that majority of them, let's say, correlate or have the context. When you have the term coup, the most, let's say, appearing second term within that news is the President of Republic of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. On the second place, next to the coup, you have the Turkish government as the body. On the third place, it is Fethullah Gulen and related to him. On the fourth place, you have other state officials, like the Prime Minister of Turkey, Binali Yildirim, sorry, and so on. So there is categorization of these words. What is interesting here that usually in the context of these news, you have, I try to analyze the positive, negative, neutral news in the context to the certain people. The scene is diversified when it comes to the president of Recep Tayyip Erdogan. So you have the positive, you have the negative, and you have the neutral. When it comes to other actors within this, usually it is neutral. More than 90% of the news are neutral when it comes to all of them, with few exceptions when it comes to the term Fethullah Gulen, which were, let's say, which had the negative tone. But it's very, let's say, close to the neutral tone of the news itself, so it didn't emphasize that much on that. The primary media, online media that covered the coup attempt in the Turkey, in these countries, Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia, actually was clicks.ba. They published more than 180 news just related to the coup attempt. They had live broadcasting over that night of the events, what was happening. They were trying to give as much as possible. They had the most, let's say, reading of these news, most sharing, more than 10,000 sharing of the news itself in the virtual world was related to the coup attempt. And it reached more than, let's say, 1.5 million audience through these sharings. So there were, when you try to categorize the news itself, they were mostly in the days after, the mostly new news related to the news reports, but you also had some commentary or opinions, columns written about that one. You had, let's say, significant number of the news that included photo and video gallery. You had a couple of the featured news that fronted news itself, and you had the mix, news plus commentary, to conclude it. Okay, let me just have now these pictures, please. I just want to show you the headlines of the newspapers, the traditional newspapers that we had. So I will try to show it. So the people saved the President Erdogan. The cover page of newspaper in Serbia. Alo. Next one, please. You will see how the Erdogan set up on fire Turkey. So these are the fronted news. Next one, please. Erdogan prepares terrible revenge. Arrested 6,000 people. Just try to imagine the text with the picture. Next. Erdogan tries to destroy NATO. Turkish leaders set up the ultimatum for the Gulen extradition. Next one. United States tried to destroy Erdogan because of Putin. Next one. They shot over my head. This is like personal story you have. But in the corner over there, in your right corner, the Sultan's revenge will be bloody. Next one. Coup attempt in Turkey. Next. The breakdown of coup plotters. Next one. Erdogan took over the control. In the bottom of the page, the world fears from the Erdogan's revanchism. Next one. In the up, so this is 3 days after the coup attempt. In Istanbul, still there are fires. Okay, next one. Erdogan sends coup plotters to Sorry, I cannot pronounce. Like he sent them. He wants to kill them. Okay, next one. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I apologize for leaving. I need to go.
Because these two academicians have to leave to catch your plane. We break here, and if you wish to ask any questions to these friends, please, I will wait your questions.
Short question, short answer, please.
If you wish. Okay, thank you. I will present your okay. Lastly, you are from Tbilisi.
Yes.
Okay. Lastly, Dr. Natalia Popkazza, Turkey newspapers between June and July 26 in the Tbilisi newspapers. Please, Dr. Natalia.
It is all right. I shall pronounce the name of this country, Turkey. So Turkey in June and July 2016, in the newspaper, the Messenger, the name of the newspaper is The Messenger, and it is published in English in Tbilisi, that some people call Tiflis. Both are same. I am related to Fasis Academy. It is an international academy, and it was revived 20 years ago. And the history of this Fasis Academy goes back to ancient time, very ancient times, and it has been praised by famous Greek philosophers in at the start of the 3rd century. Well, the Fasis means sacred in cuneiform inscriptions. And Fasis means also, Fasis was done anointment with a sacred oil, anointment of the king. And before I move to my paper, I must say that our country that I represent has several names in modern times. In our language, officially in our constitution, our language is called Sakartvelo. Sa is a prefix, the root is kartu. L is from, like in Turkish, is a suffix of the place, Sakartvelo. But in English, it is called Georgian, Georgian pronounced mostly. In Turkish, it is Gürcistan. In Russian, it is called Gruzia. And these various names distort readers, and of course the tendency in our country is to choose one name, preferably the most ancient name, that would be used in every language, every modern language. Well, I am personally acquainted with the editor of the newspaper, The Messenger, and the publisher of the English language daily newspaper, he is Professor Zaza Gachichiladze, claims that this newspaper is impartial, informative, insightful. In the article by executive editor Gwanza Gachichiladze. This was published in June 1, page 1, and I shall quote the principal themes of this newspaper preceding the coup in Turkey. And it talks about several international congresses and conferences on security of the region that took place in Tbilisi, Tiflis, in that month, in June. The head of the Georgian Security Service, Gomelauri is his name, was said to have seized since August 2015 radioactive materials in 4 different cases, adding that he stated this at the May 30th Chemical, Biological, Radiological and Nuclear Science and the Consequence Management World Congress, which was held for the second time in Georgia, and which brought together high-ranking officials from 30 countries and international organizations, CBRN experts, and scientists. I quote the newspaper, but I attended that Congress personally and had a presentation there. Participants highlighted the radioactive materials that I mentioned, that the newspaper talked, were taken from other countries to Georgia and from Georgia to Turkey. Participants highlighted the importance of international cooperation to effectively combat radioactive threats. I shall talk about the Congress as I was one of the presenters. Now we have no time, and I shall omit that part. This newspaper on June 9th last year has published that Georgia's Prime Minister, Mr. Georgi Kvirikashvili, has offered heartfelt condolences to the Turkish nation over the deadly terror attack on a police car in central Istanbul on June 7, which left 11 persons dead and 86 others injured. The explosives were remotely detonated. It was the 4th major attack in Turkey's largest city in 2016. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has, I'm quoting the newspaper, Erdogan has pointed to the involvement of separatist Kurdish militants, adding that the government will continue the fight against terrorists tirelessly until the end. Windows of surrounding buildings shattered. Turkey has been hit by bloody attacks in recent months by so-called Islamic State, IS, and the Iraq and Syria, a two-year-old ceasefire between Turkey and the Kurdistan Workers' Party broke down in summer 2015. Since then, violence has killed hundreds of Turkish security forces, Kurdish fighters, and civilians. This newspaper said, quoting the BBC, the messengers, this is the newspaper I quote, the messengers, Tea Mariamidze, journalist, wrote on June 10th, at page 1, quoting NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg after meeting the Georgian President Georgi Margvelashvili at the NATO headquarters in Brussels on June 8. Georgia contributes substantially to Euro-Atlantic security. Georgia has carried out impressive self-defense reforms. The messenger's staff wrote an article on June 13th. Abkhazia does not want to join Russia. I shall review this article because the theme of Abkhazia was the principal in my presentation at the International Congress against the misuse and abuse of history in 2000, August 9, at the University in Oslo, and later at the Palace of the Prime Minister of Norway, His Excellency Jens Stoltenberg, that heads NATO nowadays. Well, I shall omit that part also. I shall talk about page 6 of the Messenger, June 13, about bombings near Shiite Muslim shrine in Damascus by Islamic State, where at least 20 persons were killed. Azerbaijan Foreign Ministry, Armenian diplomats desperately trying to mount their own way to interpret international law. This is not my words, I quote the newspaper. Trying to mount their own way to interpret international law. Hikmet Hajiev, spokesperson for Azerbaijan Foreign Ministry, told Trend is in Azerbaijan, the journal, the company, told Trend June 10, we strongly recommend the officials of Armenia to strictly abide by the well-known United Nations Security Council resolutions on unconditional withdrawal of Armenian armed forces from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan, to listen to the international community, which fully supports the territorial integrity of, and to get rid by that of, quotes, aggressor, occupier, shortcuts, which are attached to Armenia for 28 years. End of the quote. Hajiev said, the conflict between the two South Caucasian countries began in 1988 when Armenia made territorial claims against Azerbaijan. All are quotes. As a result of the ensuing war in 1992, Armenian armed forces occupied 20% of Azerbaijan, including the Nagorno-Karabakh region and the 7 surrounding districts. The 1994 ceasefire agreement was followed by peace negotiations. Armenia has not yet implemented 4 United Nations Security Council resolutions on withdrawal of its armed forces from the Nagorno-Karabakh and the surrounding districts, Trend Azerbaijan quoted. So these are principal materials that preceded the information about the coup that happened, unfortunately, in Turkey. And like it has already noted by other speakers here at various rooms at this symposium, for 2 days somehow the journalists were at a loss and were not sure how to report it. And our journals and the newspapers also were in such a situation. And after 2 days, our Prime Minister, Mr. Kvirikashvili, wrote his speech was published that he strongly, firmly was against the coup and was on the side of the government of Turkey. And on the next days, at first, these were published at first pages, on the first page of this messenger newspaper. And the next day, also on the first page was the information that our Prime Minister Kvirikashvili was the first among governments of the world that visited Mr. Erdogan and to support his policy and to support his government. I shall stop here, and if there are any questions, I can answer them. Well, I asked to show this beautiful monument of our most precious ruler. It is in English, the ruling women are called a queen, but the term queen refers to the wife of a king. But she was the ruler in her own. She was in the family of rulers. And so Medya, famous Medya, and she was not only a ruler, but she has greatly contributed to medicine, and it is considered that the word medicine comes from, owes its name to her name, Medya. And this statue is gilded and is in the city Batumi, in a very beautiful place.
Thank you, Dr. Natalia Popkhadze. Okay, any questions for our participants?
international conference, and I think we shall discuss that in private. But may I add that just the words that I started my information, that readers in the world are at a loss when one country, one ethnic nation is called by several names, various names in various dialects and languages. So if every nation, every country would choose one name, well, it is like you call in Turkish, Almanya is used for Germania, and Yunan is used for what they call themselves Hellenica. So it is worth to discuss this problem at some other conference somewhere, and choose one name for one country and one language in every area of the world. That is why people do not read most newspapers, because they do not understand. They are at a loss. Well, I had to work to learn several languages, including ancient Latin, Russian, Italian, and other, even a bit of Turkish, to learn true history of even the cuneiform and ancient Egyptian, because modern writers and geographers and scholars in last centuries, they distort often the data, even from the cuneiform texts. The names of the geographical names are mentioned that do not coincide with the text. So it is a difficult job to find they are not mistakes, but misinformation.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question? Okay. Now I am closing the session, because at 15:20 in Democracy Hall there is a last session for the concluding remarks. Thank you for everyone to come here and listen us. Thank you again.